Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in just 30 minutes. Today, we are really excited to be speaking with Adam Wells. Adam Wells is a former NHL Zamboni driver turned personal development coach. Adam leads with mindset and lifestyle. In his early 20s, Adam was falsely diagnosed with HIV and lived with the diagnosis for a little over 2 years. Adam had to choose between giving into hopelessness and depression or facing his adversity head on. Never one to back down, Adam chose to face his fears and to strengthen his mind and body. After countless blood labs, something wasn't adding up. From the very onset of his diagnosis, every test came back with undetectable levels of the virus. Adam was in peak physical condition. His doctors had molecular blood tests done at the Canadian National Microbiology Laboratory. The conclusion was clear. All serological and molecular testing was negative. Adam had been falsely diagnosed. Adam's road in life forced him to face his adversity head on and to develop a shatterproof mindset. Adam used his daily disciplines, including fitness, to help his clients develop strong bodies and shatterproof mindsets of their own. Adam, welcome. We are really excited to be speaking with you.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course, and we are very excited. And as I told you before we hit record, I thought that was a brilliantly written bio, just because of the story that you paint. And if you could take us into that diagnosis, what it was like to be in the room when you were told as a young kid in your 20s that this is what you've got.
Well, specifically, what it was like to be in the room is like, we've all seen movies where there's a car accident and it goes into that slow motion scene where, stuff starts flying around inside the vehicle. It's super quiet and it feels surreal. Everything feels like it's moving slow. You feel like you can't breathe, or at least this is how I felt. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And you just don't believe what it is that you're hearing. And again, just like the movies, like almost exactly like the movies, when there's like a cancer diagnosis or something and the guy's ear starts ringing, that literally happened to me. My ears were ringing and I didn't hear anything that came after, like it took me a few minutes just to come back to the room and I just couldn't believe it. And I was going over everything in my head and I was like, there's got to be a mistake, or I didn't hear what the doctor said correctly. And, you're just like, there's a million things coming to mind. And most of all is dread, right? Like this feeling of dread, and you can't escape it, and you just want to hope and pray that it's a nightmare and that you're going to wake up and that you just imagined all of it, right? And pretty shortly after that you realize that it's real life and that you're still in the doctor's office and that you're going to have to ask some questions, right? And at that point in time, you're also kind of thinking like, well, it's a death sentence. I'm going to die, and you think that every single thing that you had planned for your entire life is just it's over. Like everything is going to change, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, for me, that's what it felt like to be in the room, and dread and hopelessness is the first thing, right? And then that lasted for a while.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's been a while and I know it turned out well, but it can't be easy, going back to that time, thinking about it or talking about it. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. It
Yeah.
is somewhat unbelievable that you describe the scene that we all think of from the movies as being what you felt, between the not hearing anything afterward to the ears ringing to the, I hope this is a dream, or this better be a nightmare, because I don't want to face the reality or the dread, as you said.
Right. Well, it gets even worse than that too, because it's not just something that affects you personally, right? Then you start thinking about all the people that you may have affected, and you start thinking about the potentiality that maybe there's somebody else in a room somewhere feeling exactly how you're feeling, thinking that their entire future is devastated. And then you feel guilt for that. You feel responsible for that, right? I mean, there's so many different things that start to bubble to the surface that you don't think of immediately once the doctor utters those words, and you're just like, it's nothing that you can prepare for either.
No, I don't know how
Yeah.
you to be prepared. And as you referenced the guilt part, I think that's kind of the progression of where the mind goes. How did this happen to me? And then, oh no, what have I done to someone else? What was the next thing you remember from either leaving the office to this is what I'm going to do. Well, after you kind of wrapped around, this is the truth, this is what I believe is the truth, and this is how I've got to go forward. What did you do as you kind of your next step or the first thing that you remember afterward?
Honestly, like the next couple of weeks were a lot of staying in bed and screaming at the top of my lungs into my pillow and just trying to collect myself. There's always been a part of me that like I never give up. I've never given up when it comes to anything in my life. And so I kept feeling angry and sad and like I didn't really have like I didn't have a direction in life anymore. And I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. You've got to get out of this funk. Like, you can't live your entire life feeling this way. You have to do something. And it was really just 2 weeks of what I just described. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, I'm going to the gym. Like I've always gone to the gym. I've always been an athlete. And I was like, I'm going to go to the gym and have a workout. And I had a workout. I had a sauna, and I left feeling calm, and I left feeling like, I had a lot of, I just felt better. I felt like I could actually think. I had some clarity for the first time in a while. And I had this crazy thought that I honestly, my thought was, I'm going to cure it. I'm going to find a way to cure it. I'm going to find a way to make sure that I'm the strongest, most physically fit, healthy man on the planet. And then I started writing these things down. And then it became something that I told myself when I woke up in the morning. And it was something that I told myself before I went to bed. And I would just utter the words like, I have the strongest, healthiest body. I have the strongest, healthiest mind, so on and so forth. And then if I heard something else that resonated with me, I'd add it into that. Like, I guess you could call it, um, I was just positive self-talk, really, is what it was at the end of the day. And I believe that if I kept up with that positive mental attitude, that it would bleed into, my real life, my real existence, and that it would start to push away those negative emotions, and that it would keep me in a place mentally where I could move forward and where I could take positive action.
A lot of things I want to follow up there. The positive self-talk for sure. But as you talk about kind of going through those 2 weeks, again, you paint a vivid picture. Did you have any concern about, you mentioned feeling guilty originally? Was there any nervousness about going back into public? Did you check with anyone? How did you get yourself to say, okay, I'm ready to reintegrate myself into my normal routine and see other people?
Yeah, so that's a thing that was really, really hard. Like, I mean, you start thinking about the stigma associated with, an HIV diagnosis, and, what people automatically assume, like oh, you must be an intravenous drug user, or, like unprotected sex. And, like I've always been very responsible when it comes to all that stuff. And I've never honestly done anything when it comes to any kind of hard narcotics or drugs or intravenous drug. Like, I always take care of my body, and I always have. So, coming to grips with the fact that this was the diagnosis, and trying to figure out how the hell it could have happened to me, I was perplexed. And then not only that, trying to think about like, okay, well, how am I going to live my life normally now? Like, how am I going to, I didn't tell anybody for a year, and that was my parents. And when I told them finally, I just broke down. Like, I sat down with them, and like they could tell that things had kind of been a little bit different. And I just finally, I had to tell somebody, right? So for the first year or so, it was really just the medical team that I was dealing with, and they were like my only outlet for communication with regards to what was going on in my life, right? And then finally, it was my parents, and then I told my one of my sisters, and that helped. And I really kind of kept it to a close knit group of people, right? And um, but as far as like being able to make the decision to like reintegrate, it was like I kept to myself for a bit, especially the first few months. I went to see the specialists, and figured out like, hey, so like what can or can't I do in life, right? And they gave me a lot of hope, actually, because medicine has come such a long way, and you can do so much, right? Like, I mean, they even said that that it's not beyond the realm of possibility that I could have had a family, right? So for me, that was really exciting news, because I thought that I would never be able to have a family, right? And being so young, thinking like, well, what's the point of even dating anymore? And just like any other young, healthy, man who likes women, I wanted to date. And so that was something that I had to basically cut out of my life. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to date. I'm not going to be able to find somebody that I love. And if I do find somebody that I love, then how am I possibly going to ever tell them what's going on in my world? Right. Like, and so there's a lot of internal dialogue. And really, I came to the conclusion that um, there is no perfect answer. You just have to start taking action, and that imperfect action. And imperfect action, it basically it leads to forward action, and then after that, you start figuring things out as you progress. And that's really just what I had to do, because I had so many questions, and I didn't have enough answers. I just had to keep living my life and try to find the answers along the way as best as I could.
As you described, not telling anybody for a year, you just see this mistaken diagnosis is compounding in the effects it has on you, because it touches every aspect of your life, and then keeping it from anyone else has to be quite a burden, if not, you as much as what it was like to find out originally. So I can't even fathom what that was like for the year. But I really like how you wrapped up with the imperfect action there, because I think it's where a lot of us get stuck. It's like, well, we're in a tough spot, we're in something we don't know, we're confused, and I don't know the perfect way, or I don't know the best, so I'm not going to do anything, and we just either stagnate or move backwards. So I think thinking of imperfect action is wonderful advice for any time that we feel stuck, we feel wronged, we feel that there's no hope. So your story certainly exemplifies that, and I just it's absolutely fascinating to me, and I'm sure our listeners. And I could ask you questions about it all night, but I do want to kind of move forward. You mentioned the affirmations that you started with the strong and healthy mind and body. How did you how did you get introduced to positive self-talk and kind of talking to yourself in a way that would have uh, positive outcomes?
Um, I guess I have to say Tony Robbins, really. You know, when initially, I've always kind of been into checking out YouTube videos and reading books of different varieties, and but especially once I got hit with that diagnosis, because once I got hit with that diagnosis, it was like the floodgates opened up to me being receptive to anything and everything that might help me, including like nothing was off limits. If it resonated with me, then I incorporated it, or I dug deep into it, and that ranged from anything with regards to personal development. So Tony Robbins being in that category, and how impactful he was when I first started listening to him talk. And I must have stumbled across a YouTube video, because after that I picked up a few of his books, and then it was like Les Brown, and then a few others, and it just kind of cascaded from there. And it wasn't just listening to prolific speakers and personal coaches like Tony Robbins, but um, you know athletes, and studying like their triumphs, and how much a lot of these really great successful athletes and actors, and just people, anybody who's really been successful, they never had a straight road. It was always very difficult. They had to be persistent, and they had to commit, and they had to apply a lot of the lessons that you know great coaches impart on their students, right? And I took a lot from a lot of different people in different areas. And if I heard somebody reference somebody else, or if I read somebody's name referenced in a book, then I'd follow up, you know. And so that's kind of how it went.
That's great, and I like how you referenced that it's not just the Tony Robbins and the Les Browns, that there's good advice, and that there's inspiration in many different circles, not just the most famous and prominent speakers out there. So for anybody listening who's having a difficult time, of course, turn to those that are world renowned. But there might be somebody next door, there might be somebody in your home, somebody you're speaking to that can provide some positivity, some help in moving forward to take that action, to go take that next step. So changing gears a moment to go a little more positively, or a little bit more upbeat, I should say. How does one learn how to drive a Zamboni?
Oh, well, so I started working in rinks when I was still playing hockey, and paying for your own ice rentals and for your own training is pretty expensive. So once I got old enough, my parents, they kind of stopped contributing, and I had to find a way to kind of finance my own training. And I wanted to take hockey as far as I could. And honestly, I was pretty good, really athletic and all that, but I just didn't have the makings to take it beyond a university tryout. And so I went to St. FX in Antigonish, that's in Nova Scotia, and that was basically the last stop on my hockey train. I really wanted to just take it as far as I could, and so I started working in a rink to kind of pay for my training. And then once hockey in school didn't work out in Nova Scotia, I came back and picked up where I left off, and I started just working in local community rinks, and I got a lot of experience there. And um, one of my friends from high school, his family, like their legacy is just making unbelievable ice. His dad gets all the contracts for all the Olympic speed skating events and other international speed skating events, and he worked for an NHL team in the city that I live in currently, and he ended up my buddies, or sorry, my oh, I'm getting all flustered here, but my buddy, whose father is the speed skating guy, he was working for the NHL team, and then he got a supervisor of ice position at another NHL franchise here in the same province, and he basically brought me along for the ride, and I worked for the Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers, for about 6 years, and got a ton of experience there, and drove a lot of NHL games, a lot of playoff games, some World Junior games, and basically just had a great experience. And that's basically how I got there. So
Thank you for sharing that. If you had
yeah.
one story or one thing that you tell your buddies when they ask what it was like working with the Oilers, what's your go-to, or what do you think of first when somebody asks you that?
Oh, well, I'd say just driving the Battle of Alberta. There's the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. There's always heated matchups between them, and every chance I had to drive that game, it was cool. Like it's just, you get out there and you have to make sure that the ice is at such a high quality that it's just the pride that you take from going out there and doing that, right? Like, I mean, these players are playing at the highest level, and they're doing it on the surface that you provided for them. And I think just being able to drive, a Zamboni for an NHL game is really cool. And so I have no shortage of stories like that, but I think the cool thing is just being able to go out there and drive during an NHL game.
Okay.
Honk the horn at some fans that are waving. Usually the little kids, they go crazy for the machine. So you give them a honk and flash the lights, and they love it. So
There you go. Everyone loves that.
yeah.
Not to go back to a difficult time for you, but as you mentioned, riding the hockey train as far as it can go, it can't be easy when you get to the last stop. Was it a kind of, all right, this is over for me, I've had a good time? Were you kicking and screaming getting off that train? What was that like to kind of realize, all right, I'm not going to be playing hockey professionally or competitively anymore, and this is it?
Yeah, you know what? Like, when it comes to anything in my life, whether it was hockey or whether it was that false HIV diagnosis, I mean, I don't have a negative outlook for any of those things. They're all, parts of my history that served a purpose, that helped to form who I am today, that instilled, positive habits, and helped me to form great relationships, a lot of which I still have today. And so for me, like, it wasn't a kicking and screaming thing. It was like I did the best that I possibly could. And I've always approached my life that way, and anything I do. And if it wasn't meant to be, well, it wasn't meant to be. Like, we can't all, be professionals at, the things that we're passionate about. And that's okay, because, there's a million different things in this world that you can go out there and set your mind to, and you should. And, if you're passionate about something, then yeah, go full force into it. But don't be disappointed in yourself if you gave it everything you had, and you just you didn't make it to the highest possible level. That's okay. And you can still take these passions and hobbies with you later on in life. And like, I still go out and skate on the outdoor rink, and I still go play shinny every now and then. And I love hockey just as much now as I did then. And same thing with when I play my guitar. Like, I'm a pretty good guitar player, but I'm not in a professional rock band, and I don't have any aspirations to ever be in one, right? So I take pleasure in doing things that I'm good at, and I try to develop those skills. And I'm not saying if you do have the ability, don't I'm not saying, hey, don't go play pro hockey. I'm not saying don't go be a professional athlete or musician or whatever. If you have the ability, go do it. Put everything you've got into it, 100%. But if you fall short, then that's okay. There's a lot of other things you can do in this world.
That's such a fantastic answer, because I think sometimes, to go back to imperfect action, that it's, well, I'm really good at this, but I don't know how it's going to end, so I might as well just stop now, and just taking it as far as it can go to see, and then still having that realistic approach, I think is the best way to do it. I do want to put a bow on the false diagnosis. Take us back into the room when you found out it was false. What was that like?
Oh, well, so I mean, amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I had like some suspicions that, it might have been a false diagnosis. And I had already planned to broach a subject with my medical team. And the thing was, you know, because of how I wrote it in the description is that I felt amazing. I still feel amazing. I mean, but I was thinking, like, I'm supposed to be getting sick here, and I'm not getting sick. My blood labs are awesome, and everything is status quo, and it just feels like I come here to be told that I'm healthy. It was really surreal. But so anyway, I walk into the doctor's office, and I think I'm going for a regular checkup, and to review my blood work and so on and so forth. And it was not that. I went to a different room. There was a whole bunch of stuff, scribbled out on a whiteboard, and I could tell that there was a positive energy in the room for sure, and I was anticipating some sort of news, and actually it ended up being more than one visit, because initially they're like, okay, well, we don't want you to get your hopes up, but this is what we think is happening, and this is what we've done, and we're going to wait to see some results. And so it wasn't just like a quick, like, one and done. Like, it was, and which was good, because it would be terrible if they told me, like, hey, yeah, you're good to go, you're in the clear, and then I wasn't, right. The other thing that was fantastic was that once I did get the confirmation, they were like, everyone's like kind of patting me on the back, and like, it was like, it was amazing for everybody, really. And it was a great day. And honestly, there were some things, actually, I would say, all in all, that day, it was a perfect day. But afterwards, and I mean, a few years afterwards, I started to realize that, there were still some things that that I carried with me, and one of those things was, a kind of an aversion, or like a distrust of, you know, our current medical system in certain regards, right. And I know that that's it's funny, because I trust them, but at the same time, I'm like, man, if it went wrong for this long, and it caused me this type of pain and conflict, like, I mean, I just thought, I if it's just me, then I hope it's just me, really, is what I'm trying to say. It's like, I hope that this isn't happening to other people. And all in all, it was a really positive thing, and it helped to shape who I am today, and it changed my outlook on life forever. And also, not to say that I completely mistrust the medical system. It's just that for certain things, I have an aversion, and I think that's just because of what I went through.
Part of the reason why I'm
Yeah.
comfortable asking you these questions is, one, because of the outcome, and two, because of the way you talk about it in such a respectful and thoughtful way, that I think it's okay to have those doubts, for sure. And I'm not surprised, because of just the way you carry yourself and the way that you are positive and upbeat. But I would think that someone who lived through those very difficult 2 years, then is told this, as you correctly describe, amazing news, would be angry that, I've just lost these 2 years. Why did this happen to me? How whose fault is this? You didn't mention any of that, and I think that just a one. You mentioned that you had doubt, and you wanted to happen to no one else, but the fact that you did not kind of dwell on it any further, and have been able to have this amazing second and third life/career afterward is remarkable, and speaks to the person you are and your personality. So I just want to point that out, that uh, because I know that it's a positive and a happy ending, I feel okay going into it. But your
Mhm.
mindset throughout as you told the story is absolutely incredible. And I'm going to try to land into my next question here. It seems like that's the basis for what you do in coaching your clients. Is that a safe assumption, or how did that start?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that I don't know if it's just an inherent thing that I've never really kind of been bitter. I just wanted my life back, and I was happy to have it, and I was happy to just go full steam ahead. And so also I had the clarity because there's like this moment where you think I mean, oh, your life is over. And it could very well be over. And then you have to think to yourself, like, well, what's the point of moving forward? Why do I want to move forward? If I have this diagnosis and I can't have a wife and I can't have children and can't have intimate relationships. Well, what's the point? Right. Like, I mean, it's such a huge part of life that afterwards I kind of felt like I felt relieved and I felt elated that I could have those things. And, but also what I'm trying to say is that like, having gone through some rough times and some dark patches, especially in the beginning, I just was kind of like immune to it. Like I was like, it's all good from here, it's all gravy from here. And it really is. Sometimes people think that what's going on in their world is it's rough, and so a lot of times it can be rough, right? But you don't have to stay there. At a certain point, suffering is a choice, and time is going to pass regardless. And you just have to make, I don't care where you are right now, so long as 2 or 4 or 6 months down the road you're in a better place. And so to answer your question, it's not, like I've had some friends and stuff like that growing up that they've gone through some pretty serious stuff themselves, and I've seen people that I care about not be in the greatest health because they made poor decisions, right? And those poor decisions over a long enough time period didn't yield them a positive result. They drank too much, they smoked too much, they put on excessive weight, or maybe some of them got involved in hard drugs and put their life on a completely different path. One of my best friends, I don't talk to him anymore, and I haven't talked to him for a very long time because he was one of the best of us. Like he was built like an absolute tank. And he was smart, and he went to university and became a chemical engineer. And like there was things that he did afterwards that spiraled his life out of control. And so I'd seen that happen, and I just started seeing other people suffering, and I thought, like I have my own version of suffering, and I've been to a very dark place, and I know that this is a choice and that you don't have to stay there. And I know that there are a lot of people in this world right now, especially in the world that we're living in today, where it's increasingly difficult for people to make it financially. And people are worried about, are we going to are we just around the corner from World War III? And like you don't know who to trust anymore in terms of like what's the right thing to do in terms of my nutrition and my health. And we're literally drowning in information and starving for truth. And so I'm a firm believer that like no one could trump my personal experience. Like you could have a Harvard PhD come up to me tomorrow and try to convince me that he has a whatever it is, that my personal experience isn't valid, and that like what I've learned and what I've taken from my personal experience isn't valid. No one can convince me of that. And I know I'm kind of going from point to point here, but what I'm trying to say is that there are people that are out there suffering, and I have a bit of a blueprint based on how I got myself out of that position. And I kept a positive outlook, and I could have just as easily gone the other way, but that was a decision. And all people really need to do in the beginning is they need to realize that it's a decision, and they need to make a choice that no matter what's affecting them, it doesn't matter how bad it is, that you have a choice. You can absolutely start to make your life better one step at a time. And it's just a one day at a time thing. And you just keep going. And sometimes it helps to have somebody show you the path, or it helps to have somebody keep you accountable. And it helps to have somebody who has, who's been in a dark place, who knows that pain and can help. It can help, it helped. Like for me, once I had the opportunity to start talking to my family about it, once I had the opportunity to lean on some people a little bit, it helped me tremendously. And I think that that's what I offer people. And I think that through fitness and through even like physical fitness is one of the greatest forms of personal development. Like it literally will make you tough. It's one way to already strengthen your mindset. And so, yeah, that's how I landed there. I mean, I've gone through this and I thought, what a waste. Like, why not help other people, if I can?
I love the term shatterproof mindset when you have written it in the bio. As you describe it, it's all I can think of, because you're absolutely right. No one can deny what the experience you lived through and how difficult that was. But the main point that I want to take away, and I hope everyone listening takes away, is that the difficulty, the feelings, those are choices, those are decisions. You, for the most part, control how you feel, how you move forward. So I think your story just exemplifies that so well. And then, as you referenced, when you were able to reach out to those in your life and talk and have a dialogue, that was helpful. So for you to then come be that source or be that person for others makes a ton of sense given your experience. And I can't think of a better person to do it, given what we've talked about tonight. That said, we are somehow already at time. I have a couple of quick hitting questions I'd like to end with, if I could. First, what position in hockey did you play?
Left wing.
Okay. What was the highest goal scoring year you had?
Oh, Division 9, one of my early years. So Adam 9, and I had about 45 goals that year.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Acoustic or electric guitar?
both.
No preference?
Well, I love to shred on the electric, so I'd have to go electric.
Who do you compare your playing style to?
Um, uh, well, I can tell you who inspired me to pick up a guitar, and that would be Jimi Hendrix.
That's a wonderful inspiration.
Yeah.
Do you play originals, covers? What is your go-to?
I just play whatever comes to mind, really. I like to be really creative in that regard, and so I'll play. A lot of times I'll play a song and then I'll just kind of jam out to it, and then whatever comes out is what comes out. And then sometimes I'll write my own stuff.
Very nice. Where can our listeners connect with you or find out more, Adam, if they'd like to?
The best place to connect with me is on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is A Wells, so AWELLS, and then 3 underscores, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. You can direct message me, and if you need help with anything, if you need to chat, I'm always there. So
we'll post that for sure. And speaking about chatting and working with personal development clients, who are you working with most these days, or who should reach out to you if they want to learn more?
I think that anybody who wants to improve their physical fitness and their mindset through physical fitness, anybody who's just stuck, anybody really. I mean, as long as you want to challenge yourself to improve every day, and you think that I'm the kind of person that can help you, then I think that you should reach out. I think that I have a lot to offer. I know that I have a lot to offer in terms of helping people with their nutrition and their physical fitness goals. But beyond that, I'm somebody who can guide you through some tough times.
I don't doubt it for a second. Adam, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you reliving some difficulties in your life and sharing the positive outcomes and the positive mindset that you were able to keep. So thank you so much for doing this, and I look forward to next time.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me. It was great.